Today's episode is brought to you by Visible. Good morning, happy Monday, and welcome to Screen Junkies Universe. I'm excited today. Do you want to know why?
I always want to know why.
It's because it's Captain Marvel week. Captain Marvel is
Captain
opening
Marvel
up
week
this Friday, and Emma Fyffe, the Fighting Fyffe,
I like that.
which I
I'll
have
take
just
it.
now named her, and it lives forever, has joined us.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here on this lovely Monday morning, almost afternoon.
Yeah. Is it almost afternoon for you?
Well, it's 11, so, just by the clock. And
This is when my grandparents would eat lunch,
Yeah,
so I feel like it's on the border.
Going strictly by AM and PM, it's almost the afternoon because we're in the last hour of AM.
That's fair, but as Mr. Billy Business here will attest, here at Screen Junkies, we start our day at around noon and end it whenever we want.
We're on like the Beatles schedule where we just come in, kind of work or before noon. We'll see.
Yeah. We'll see
This
what we
show's
get
not
done.
work.
Yeah, this isn't work at all. This is the best part of our day because this is where we get to have fun with you guys and talk about all of the entertainment things. We have a Shazam trailer to go over today. We're going to talk about Spielberg and Netflix. Beefing. Somebody's got to squash that beef. But first, we have some sad news to talk about. I don't know if you guys have heard this or not, but Luke Perry passed away. It was announced this morning. He had a stroke, a massive stroke on Friday, and he has very sadly passed away. He is best known, of course, for starring in 90210 in the 90s, and then Riverdale. Now, this was the resurgence of both Luke and Skeet Ulrich on Riverdale. So according to his publicist, he was surrounded by his children, Jack and Sophie, fiance Wendy Madison Bauer, ex-wife Minnie Sharp, mother Ann Bennett, stepfather Steve Bennett, brother Tom Perry, and sister Amy Coder. He was with other family and friends. He was only 52 years old. That is so young. This is very, very, very sad news. And of course, on a pragmatic level, they have to figure out what they're doing with Riverdale now. There was some talk of him stepping in for some of the new 90210, and just largely, I want to say he was a teen icon, but he was the kind of teen icon I think that you want to have, where he had that bad boy mystique, but he's also really smart and a good actor, and I loved that show. That's probably I'm probably going to be the lone. Right? Am I the only 90210?
I was a little bit young for 90210.
Me too. I was only 5.
I had a neighbor that was a few years older than me who was really, really into it and had like the 90210 Barbie dolls. And so I was certainly very aware of 90210 and certainly of Luke Perry. And I really enjoyed his performance on Riverdale.
Yeah.
And I literally I knew he had the stroke, but I found out that he passed away as I parked my car this morning in the parking garage, and I saw on Twitter, as most of us get our news from, I think, these days. But yeah, I'm completely floored.
Yeah, it's really sad and very, very surprising because he was so young. Sasha Pearl Raver, who she and I used to do Riverdale recaps here, it was my happy place that I indulged myself in once a week. She texted me very sad about it and wanting to do a very special Riverdale call out. So yeah, just really sad, generally speaking. Very young.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll be honest, I don't really know any of his work. Never watched Riverdale. Obviously was, if you were 5, I must have been 2.5 when 90210 came out. I never watched it, but I think just in general, it just reminds you, like, life is short.
Yeah.
Anything can happen. Live your best life. Be your best self. Do what makes you happy, because you never know when your time's going to come.
And hopefully that's exactly what he did do. I actually think Billy the Business, I think he would like that first season of Riverdale.
Probably. I've heard good stuff.
Yeah, it's fun.
So
yeah, check it out. Very sad news. Our thoughts are obviously with him and his family. And to Billy's point, embrace your life. I think that's what he did largely.
Yeah.
He talked about in one article that he went to, I think it was like 260 auditions before he booked his first job at all as an actor.
It certainly in recent years always struck me as somebody too that was having this really good comeback, and not from a place of like he was at a low point, just oh yeah, Luke Perry's still around, he's still working, this is great.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the things that I thought was so smart about how they cast that first season of Riverdale, and they pulled out like Skeet and Luke Perry in these 90s and Molly Ringwald's 80s and 90s icons and brought them into this world. And they were kind of playing with Archie that way and reflecting on what it had been through the ages. I think that first season does that so smartly as someone that had a lot of Archies growing up. Okay. So Shazam, is this, I have a question for us because this is the second trailer. Is it also the final trailer?
And this thing comes out in like
Not
2
long.
hours. So like I feel like what more? There's some really funny stuff in this. I hope this is the last one because don't tell me any more jokes because the ones you told me are really funny and I want to laugh at the rest of it.
I agree. And I also just have to say that I am so thankful that there is finally a new trailer for this because AMC plays the Shazam trailer before every single movie. And I've seen that first Shazam trailer at least 40 times in the theater, I think, at this point. Because I have AMC A-list, so I go to the movies all the time.
It's the new Star
It's
is
just
Born.
always,
It's the new Star is Born.
Yes, it is. It's the new Star is Born.
But that actually makes me wonder, is there, because they released, the Star is Born trailer was in AMC, the special Star is Born was all the time in every AMC, but they also had the early screenings.
Yes.
So I guess Warner Brothers has a special relationship with
They must,
AMC.
because my goodness, I've seen that first trailer so many times. But this trailer was great.
It was. They have done kind of a minimal marketing around this, which is kind of interesting. And maybe they are trying to hold back as much as they can. Look, everybody kind of knows on paper what this is. It's big with a superhero.
Yes.
Great.
Sold.
Yeah.
I'm hearing great things. They're doing pretty early screenings, and everybody's been very, very positive about it so far. And I will say this. Let's talk about the actual trailer and what was in there. When he makes the initial leap off the building, my first response was like, well, that's risky. You didn't want to just say Shazam without the leap? Just want to,
Listen,
Maybe like a porch.
he watched Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and really got inspired by Miles Morales and just had to go for it.
I
was
would
half
love that
expecting
crossover.
Right?
I was half expecting a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
I was like, I
yeah.
didn't think that he was good. But then I was like, well, it is a child
It's
on
true.
a building. This could get really
Yeah, but it
grisly
also
really fast.
wouldn't surprise me if it in the trailer was edited in such a way that the joke was taken out, because it would not surprise me if in the final cut of the film he's falling for a while and then it happens.
Pops back up. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's true.
I did, for half a second, did you think about the idea of really little kids being encouraged? Or am I just...
Oh, you mean like how in Back to the Future originally it was supposed to be a refrigerator and they were like, oh no, all children have a refrigerator in their house.
Yes.
They're going to try to close themselves in the fridge and travel through time.
Yes,
A little bit.
These are my concerns.
I mean, come on, man.
did you
What
not
what
see?
little
Won't you
kid?
be my neighbor and the Superman little kid
Sure,
jumping off of...
but what? That's jumping off a house. What little kid is going to be like? I need to get to the top of
gonna
the
jump off the
stairs,
skyscraper.
like
Jumping
with
off
no
a
adult
house.
supervision.
Jumping off a
Shazam! Like it's just not going to happen.
All right, fine.
Yeah.
Jumping off a house is not better, by the way. So,
this time
That's
though,
true.
I realized that Mark Strong was the villain in the movie,
Yes.
but I feel like this trailer, I finally really got to appreciate the fact that it was Mark Strong, who I just love. He's a wonderful villain.
he is a wonderful villain, and you bring up a great point, which is that all of a sudden what floated through my mind is, where is the opportunity for Mark Strong to play a suburban dad? Because that's what I need from him. It's like he's such a good villain in everything, because the whole time you'd be waiting for the heel turn with him, don't
I
you
know.
think? Like some
Yes.
weird, surreal movie about suburbia.
I mean,
Make
you're
it
gonna
happen.
get that. What was that Vin Diesel one where he was like the agent that was also a nanny? That's what you're gonna get eventually.
What movie?
Yes, no, I know
It's like
exactly
the
the movie you're talking
babysitter.
about.
The Pacifier.
Pacifier.
Thank you.
You're gonna Mark Strong.
Eric Goldman for the win.
Mark Strong coming to Redbox Pacifier 2.
Pacifier.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the one that The Rock did, where he was a nanny.
That's another.
Tooth Fairy. Okay,
Woof.
let's talk about
Yeah.
Shazam. One other thing that I thought was interesting is, we talked about this earlier, David F. Sandberg was such an interesting choice for them because he had done horror before that, Lights Out,
yes.
Annabelle Creation. However, what I really liked about Annabelle Creation was that it was funny. It kind of hit on the kind of horror movies that I liked as a kid.
Exactly, and I think that most really successful horror movies do have a certain level of humor in them. So it does, I agree, seem like an odd choice. But when you really think about it, not so much, because it's all about balancing the humor with actual stakes.
True.
So,
yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. Well argued.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you think that they're not doing much of a marketing push on this, or are we going to get a blitz?
I started to see billboards going up, so I wonder if it's look, if it were me, I'd be like, let Captain Marvel have its first couple weeks and then we'll hit it hard.
With how much better we are? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm referencing what's out there already, not
true.
what I believe.
Here's what I will say after watching this trailer. I was like, why am I like emotionally way more excited for Shazam than like almost anything right now? Like even Endgame to this point in some respects. I'm like, I think it's because we've gotten so... Let me explain. I think it's because we've had so many superhero movies that to us, it's now become a little like nonchalant. Like, yeah, you get your powers, you do the thing. This is like the first one that I can think of in a long time, maybe since this whole Renaissance started, where they're like, there's a sense of wonder about getting powers and making it feel special again.
I knew you were going to say that.
Did you?
I did.
How?
Once you started, because that is the only distinction. And it has largely
that's like the last thing that like we've torn apart this genre to death. We did like the let's turn heroes in on each other, you know, like ripping apart. We've done Spider-Verse, which takes apart another level, a little bit meta. This is like just like a child. What if you got these powers?
Yeah.
This would be freaking awesome.
Which is how you would feel as an adult too.
Oh, definitely.
I think.
And I think I totally see your point, Billy, because I think that especially with the Marvel stuff, even though I'm very excited for Captain Marvel, and it is very much the origin story of her and introducing her into the MCU, we also know that we're immediately going to turn around and see her in Endgame, most likely. So there's a lot of weight and a lot of backstory that's all kind of caught up in that, whereas Shazam is very much independent from everything that's happened thus far in the DC, whatever they're calling their collection of films.
World of DC.
The world of DC, something like that. So you're then able to have this isolated, as you say, very simple story of here's a kid that got superpowers. That's it.
Yeah, that's all I need at this point. And someone who's like excited to be a superhero.
Yeah.
It's been so long since someone's just been like, this is freaking awesome.
Yeah. I think there's been a lot around the burden and the responsibility, which is fine because that's kind of interesting too, but he's having a good time. But they're also referencing probably some of the things that happen, even in this trailer, in other superhero movies. Like, did you see what I just did? Like, yeah, you almost destroyed all of this stuff.
Yes.
And you were very, very destructive. Yeah. And I caught it with my hand, which is one of the things that they never really do in the Marvel movies, which is account for, I mean, they kind of do. I guess that's
kind of
what Civil War is all about.
Yeah.
And like Spider-Man Homecoming does
Yeah.
a good job of like, he saved that fairy, but he did
also-
it himself. But
Yeah.
this is like taking it just like in the most fun, like, I think I'm tired of the like the reluctant hero, the burden, the call to action. Like, I want like, this is awesome. I'm going all around town and not even doing superhero things. Like, I'd like your finest beer, please. Like, I love it. Like, I am Shazam is already my Shazam.
Shazam! Oh boy. Well, I'm looking forward to it as well. But I will tell you one thing. For two things. One, let's not do Captain Marvel versus Captain Marvel.
No. Two different things.
Two
Completely.
different things. Let's just not do it. I hope Zachary Levi, I think, has been great about coming out and saying the same thing. Like, there's room for everybody. Let's just all have fun.
Very
They're different
good.
movies. One does have a cat, Billy. Is all I'm saying.
That's true.
That's true. That they both have things. That's one has wonder, one has a cat, and it is a cat, not wonder. Okay, I'll leave Shazam
It's
at that.
okay to like both.
It's okay to like both. I wish they would do one team up DC Marvel like series of PSAs on like.
I mean, this would have
Wouldn't
been
that be great?
the greatest opportunity to
Because
do it
it's Captain Marvel
and Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
But could you imagine if you got like Chris Hemsworth and Jason Momoa doing a thing like, hey, we like each other's movies?
Yeah.
Yes.
Be cool.
I would watch that.
Especially if they constructed it like the Captain America gym.
Yes. Yes.
So,
I
you're
love
being
that.
an asshole online.
That would make me happy. I doubt that will happen, but
Right.
I have
We can
quietly
dream.
pitched it right here to you. Warner Brothers and Marvel. I know you're watching, Kevin. Hi, Kevin. Let's talk about the beef between Steven Spielberg and streaming in general, but Netflix in particular. He came out last year and sort of slammed any streaming movie by saying they shouldn't be eligible for an Academy Award because they were TV movies, so they should be in Emmy contention, which a lot of people took as an insult. Of course, Roma, which was nominated and favored to win before Green Book came out, and took it, was released theatrically. You have to have a small theatrical release to be in contention for an Academy Award. They did the advertisement, I thought very smartly, during the Academy Awards for Martin Scorsese's The Irishman coming to theaters, ... And Netflix. Which I thought was really smart. They put a lot into that movie. They're clearly hoping that it will be a contender, which will be really interesting because Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese are the two biggest advocates for the preservation of film.
I know.
So it's odd to see them at odds this way, but let's talk about it. Netflix, so Spielberg basically reportedly was going to go to the Academy and say they should not be in Netflix movies and streaming movies should not be in contention for Academy Awards consideration. Netflix took to Twitter and basically answered Spielberg without calling him out specifically and said, do we have the tweet?
But
Anyway, they said we love cinema, but they talked about the things that Netflix can do, like giving access to people who can't always afford or live in towns without theaters, letting everyone everywhere enjoy the releases at the same time, and giving filmmakers more ways to share their art, and saying these things are not mutually exclusive. Let's dive in and give our opinions, but I also just want to, if anybody feels like improving a little bit, I would love the dinner party where Karan and Spielberg are. Like, you could be Karan, you can be Spielberg. I just
feel
say
like
go with
Karan's
your
just gonna be
feelings.
Just no comment.
Well, reportedly, some of the Academy members did not vote for Roma because they didn't feel comfortable having a Netflix film win an Academy Award.
Get over it. That's my opinion on it. No, okay, so I think for us living in Los Angeles and for directors like Steven Spielberg living in Los Angeles, it's really easy to lose sight of the fact that films are not necessarily all that accessible to the general public. I toured with a children's theater company when I first graduated from college, and I did residencies in towns in the middle of nowhere where 800 people lived. They did not have movie theaters. They certainly would never get a film like Roma in their theaters. So if Netflix or Amazon or Hulu are providing an outlet for these films that are potential Oscar contenders to be able to be accessible by the general public, it's absurd to me that they should automatically be disqualified because they're streaming and not because they have a wide theatrical release.
Yeah. We're going to stay here for the moment, but I just want you to know I have a number of follow-up questions about the children's theater.
You're welcome. Yes, no problem.
Billy, we've talked about this already.
Right.
I definitely have strong
Can
feelings.
you see now why I think award shows are so dumb?
I think they're so dumb.
self-serving. Look, here's the thing. I'm actually more split on this than you would think because I get it. There's this romanticism about film and legacy and what it is and what it should be. I get it. I understand it. I'm not even fighting you on it. But, and I've said this a million times, like, look at what happened to the music industry.
Yeah, I know.
Like, you are starting to
know.
creep down the same path of, like, instead of how do we embrace the change? How do we adapt? How do we keep evolving? How do we be entrepreneurs in the state? It's how do we stop it?
Yeah.
And that is the wrong mentality to have because Netflix is not going anywhere. So when you talk about like the Oscars feeling less relevant every year, it's like, guys, you are becoming the harbingers.
You're making it so by saying things like this, because as you say, like Netflix is not going anywhere, and I get
whether Netflix
streaming.
does or
streaming services are not going
Right.
anywhere. But I guess for me, it's like I understand because I don't want people to stop going to the movies. I love going to the movies. And that's something that I sort of realized with the whole AMC A-list thing, which for us in LA is like the best frickin' deal in town,
so
because it's like $24 a month.
But I don't think...
I think if you were at the $20, you were grandfathered into the $20. But and eventually your subscription is going to go up to like $25. But people who are signing up now, it's $25. But I'm still paying $20 a month. Do you know it's $21 to see a movie in the IMAX theater on City Walk?
Yeah.
I'm paying $20. I can go see that
movie.
Here's
the thing. Here's where I think the discrepancy is. Like, there's this notion that it's like, guys, don't stop going to the movies because if you love movies, you have to go to the movies. I'm like, I don't think that's true. I think you can love movies and never want to go to a theater. I don't think that
it's a different experience
anymore. It is, but that's like saying like going to a concert is the only way to experience a piece of music.
100%. 100%.
So two things.
Sure.
Really quick. One is I agree. But I think the thing about privilege that's just like inherent in it is that people aren't aware that they're living in it because whatever your experience is normal. You normalize it, and that's a quick philosophy minute. That's very natural. Biology minute? Unclear. It's very natural because
sociological.
Sociological minute. The point is you get it. You have to do that. Like your brain sort of has to adjust that way in order to get through the day. So I remember being in this really beautiful environment at like a yoga retreat, and it was gorgeous in the mountains, blah, blah, blah. And the woman that lived there said she remembered when she came there and she was feeling all this awe, and then she had just sort of gotten used to it. But you have to, otherwise you would not get much done.
Yeah,
if you're sitting there blown away by the experience of your own life. But the point is, so for Spielberg, I don't think he understands the level of privilege that he's sitting in when he tries to make these proclamations, because he's not thinking, to your point, Emma, about the people that have to drive an hour to go to see even widely released movies and then have to get a sitter and have to pay for that gas and have to pay for parking.
Yeah.
He's not thinking about all of that. And if you really, really love film, which we all do, yes, there's something to preserving it. Yes, there's something to preserving the theatrical experience, but it needs to be in step with what's actually happening in the world. And if you really love film, which we all do, don't we want more people to be able to see the films that the Academy is recognizing? Because one of the things that's happened over the last couple of years, I think, and why ratings declined, is that a lot of the films that were nominated were just not available for people to see.
The majority of the public cannot go see those movies.
Yeah.
It is just not really feasible for them to do so. So that obviously would contribute to the decline in ratings for the Oscars, because people are like, well, I haven't seen any of the stuff that's nominated, so why do I care?
Yeah, exactly. And so don't you want people to have more access to this? And then the second thing is that if you think about, there was also a big resistance among a lot of filmmakers to using digital over film, like literally film stock. And I get that because film stock is beautiful. I used it in film school. I love it too. However, it is so hard to get a film released and distributed in theaters. For independent filmmakers, for foreign films, like it is so challenging to get that done. So streaming has done a great service by allowing creators to do more than they ever could have done before the advent of streaming. Same thing with cable, same thing with television, same thing with film. All of this opens more doors. It doesn't close them. And with digital, film stock is very, very expensive, and it just allowed people to make movies, which if you love film, which we all do, isn't that ultimately what you want? And by the way, if you look at things like The Revenant and what Chivo is doing, Emmanuel Lubezki, it's like, that shit is gorgeous. Oh, that stuff is gorgeous. That Sally is gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's stunning. So I think that limiting these things based on your experience and your privilege, because it's always people like who I love, Tarantino,
of course,
or Nolan, who are sitting in a very special place in the world that are advocating to stop what is ultimately more access to a greater number of creators.
And just more conducive to creativity in general, because as you say, it's just so much more accessible both for creator and consumer. So yeah.
But they're also just trying to stop, like, it's too late. Like,
it's too late.
We're already
Genie's out of the bottle.
So now what's gonna happen is, like I said, you're gonna have a less relevant Oscar, and your best picture is gonna have the asterisk of like best shot on 35mm released theatrically film of the year. It's like, great, but the best movie was Roma.
But
you
the
know?
thing is, Roma was available in theaters, and it was gorgeous film. So if it was available in a place that you could go see it, it's your choice to go see it. Same thing with Annihilation. Well, Annihilation had a short theatrical release here. But you're never, I don't think we're going to lose. First, its box office was at a record high last year. Record high. People are not stopping going to see movies. This just makes more movies available in various places.
But I think, and I said this to you in the car, I think this is just Spielberg really trying to stop Motley Crue's The Dirt from winning Best Picture next year. And I'm not having it.
Yeah.
I think The Dirt is going to take it all. And I'm going to fight you. I'm going to fight you, Steve.
You know what? Motley Crue will have their day. And they will open up the Oscars. And I want to see Motley Crue open up the Academy Awards.
And just everyone's like,
yes.
What's happening?
Aren't these like just given the title of the film, the biggest dirt act in musical history? But
It's true. That book is horrifying. I don't know if you read it or not.
No.
Flip to any random page and you're like, well, this has to be the most horrifying story they have, right?
No, more than that. All right, well, now I want to read it. I mean, I know the broad strokes of it. Hey, Emma.
Yeah.
What if Captain Marvel had been in the MCU's in Phase 3?
I don't know, Roth. Imagine that. You tell me.
Well, it could have happened. Our own Billy Business here dug up an interview from...
By dug up, everyone's digging this up, and I just read it, and I was like, oh, I don't
sounds
remember.
interesting.
I don't remember reading this during Age of Ultron.
Allow me to credit you. I'm going to tell that story.
Yeah, and then people would be like, Billy Business didn't find it.
Yeah.
A million other websites did.
Oh.
But I found the websites that found it.
Exactly.
That's
and
my
that's
job,
your
kids.
job.
Stay in school.
Find the websites that find the things. So apparently, in a 2015 interview with Birth Movies Death, Kevin Feige was talking about the idea. So you know the scene in Ultron where they kind of reveal the new Avengers?
Very end.
At the very, very end?
Yes.
Do you recall?
Yes, I do recall.
Do you guys recall? Well, there it is for you if you don't. It basically, that was not Scarlet Witch. It was meant to be Captain Marvel. And Joss Whedon wanted to reveal Captain Marvel at the end of that. And they shot a plate and they said he was like, well, we'll just cast her later. And
This is my favorite
we'll put
quote.
her in.
You have to read the quote, Kevin Feige's quote.
So this is what he says. You read it. Do
He
a
goes,
Feige.
the way we reveal Scarlet Witch in costume at the end of the movie, those were Captain Marvel plate shoots. Joss said, we'll cast her later. And I said, yeah, Joss, we'll cast her later. We're not putting her in there. And as soon as I read this, I was like, everything about Age of Ultron and Joss Whedon
Just makes sense.
So much
Just
sense.
Kevin
I'm
Feige
telling you,
being like,
I think I've said it to you in the car. I may have said it in the show. Get the first Avengers Blu-ray, get Age of Ultron Blu-ray, listen to his commentary for Avengers, then immediately put on the commentary for Age of Ultron, and that is a man who was beat down by life, and he's just like, yeah, so that's Hulkbuster. It was really hard. It was just really hard.
I
to do.
told that
like
story.
It's so sad.
You definitely told me that story in the car, but I think I retold it about a man broken by Marvel, which because I don't have to tell it again, but basically on the set of Ultron, he mentioned that he was lucky if he could put on underwear in the morning, and all the reporters were like, "Well, let's start with the obvious question."
Did you?
He was destroyed by that movie.
Oh,
and this does make so much sense if they weren't at the point where they knew how to negotiate and say no.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they've since worked with directors that they just can say no to.
Sure, absolutely.
But yeah, I wonder where the negotiations with the Russo brothers are like now that they're
They're kind of the golden children
yeah.
of the MCU at this point. I feel like it's probably hard to say no to them, but they also strike me as pretty collaborative and willing to listen to feedback. So
I wonder how much longer they have in the tank. Like, have they said anything about like post Endgame where kind of we?
Oh, with the Russo brothers,
Yeah.
I don't believe. Yeah,
Yeah, I just feel like.
Here's my worry for them. My worry for them is they go the route that Spielberg actually did a number of years ago, and they just start adding their names to things without really being creatively involved, which is such a dangerous path because it's always presented by the Russo brothers, and then it's a thing that they're like, is it? I don't know if I like that thing.
Eli Roth and Quentin Tarantino do that a lot.
Yeah.
Where they just put their name on something that they watched and really liked, and then they like bought it and released it in the States, and that's all they did to it.
Yeah, or sometimes they'll just get a check for putting their name on a project.
Oh,
And
shit,
then
how do I
you
get
have-
that job?
Right?
You be the Russo brothers.
I can be a Russo brother.
We have to make Civil War to get that gig.
Sure. That's fair.
So just travel back in time in your refrigerator.
Yeah, I do think that this is, we'll get back to this, but I do think always the interesting thing that people say about any given movie that they're not happy with and they say, I could have done better. I'm under no such delusion. I
Never.
definitely couldn't have done almost never could have done better than whatever ended up
There's
happening.
only a handful of times where I'm like,
I actually could have done
X-Men
better.
Origins Wolverine was a movie that
Yeah.
I actively
Actually
was
could have
like,
done
I
better.
literally can tell you what shots you're missing
Yes.
to make this logically make sense.
Yes.
There's a couple of times, but they're rare. What do you think? This does kind of bring to mind. What do you think Joss Whedon's version of Captain Marvel would have been like?
I don't know, but it would. It certainly wouldn't be the Captain Marvel that we're getting.
Yeah.
I don't think. I wonder if she would be. Not that she would be like a. I feel like it would have more of a like sort of Buffy vibe to it. You know what I mean?
think so?
Yeah, like it would have been like. A sassy working woman. She could have still been in the military and whatnot, but I think it would have had a very Whedon-esque tone about it.
I feel like this was the moment, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this was the time period where Emily Blunt would have been in talks vaguely around being Captain Marvel.
Most definitely.
Right?
I think so.
Yeah, now I'm sad.
Well, listen, I would have loved Emily Blunt, but because I love her.
Me too.
But also, I'm excited about the manner in which they've decided to introduce Captain
Yeah.
Marvel into the MCU, and I really like that she's coming in with her own movie instead of coming in an ensemble thing to begin with.
Oh, that's true.
Which is interesting because you look at something like Black Panther, for example, was introduced earlier than Black Panther. He was in Civil War, so it kind of works both ways. But
that movie is like. I've never seen a movie juggle so many threads, and however you feel about the movie, it makes sense by the end. You're like,
Civil
wow,
War,
somehow
it's shocking. It is shocking.
Don't like Age of Ultron, which, by the way, I still think
Yeah.
people are a little harsh on.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the worst. Calm down.
Definitely.
But I
it definitely is the worst of the Marvel movies.
Whoa.
Yeah.
All right, this is we'll have to talk after this. I'm looking at you, Iron Man 3. But
What?
I think.
All right, later.
The only movie that Marvel has retconned almost every single thing that happened in that movie.
I
Sure,
will come out. The world is going to be on your side. I know it, but I will come out and actually movie fight you on this.
How's that Iron Patriot action figure of
Oh,
yours?
come on.
Yeah. But anyways, I think had Captain Marvel, by the way, just shown up at the end of in that 10 seconds at the end of Age of Ultron, and be like, what? Who's that? How did I miss?
Yeah.
A little random.
Yeah, it's not big enough for if it was like. I don't know, the Fantastic Four, you'd have some cultural knowledge of
Sure.
I know who that is.
Yeah,
but you'd be like,
definitely.
Who's that?
Because I agree. Like for me, I've read Captain Marvel comics and I am excited about that character. So that would have felt very much like an Easter egg that was for a very specific set of people, rather than, as you say, had it been like Fantastic Four, where it is more part of the cultural zeitgeist, just given the fact that there have been multiple Fantastic Four movies made. Whether or not they should have been remains that is a question.
Well,
but
you're talking about the Roger Corman. Should have been.
Yes.
By the way, just because I love Emily Blunt, which I do unabashedly, there's nothing she has done ever that she's not fantastic in. She's so versatile. That's my love letter to Emily Blunt. I'm still excited about Brie.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to think that what his version of this character, if they had fast tracked it and moved her story further ahead, where it's almost like given how it's landing, they couldn't have, because they needed to reveal someone that empowered until she had the big bad to come up against with the team, right?
I agree. I'm now back on Joss Whedon Captain Marvel. I feel like we definitely would have seen her going from being Ms. Marvel to being Captain Marvel, because Carol Danvers was Ms. Marvel for so long. So
they'd have the same problem with Civil War that they had with Hulk and Thor. Like, you can't put these two in it because it'll be over in 2 seconds. You
Yeah.
got to find ways to get him out of here. So you would have had to do the same with her because she could have ended Civil War in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Sure,
Same with Infinity
totally.
War,
Oh,
probably.
yeah.
Yeah, that's they would have had her exactly. They would have had to have her evolve a lot over time versus introducing her, demonstrating how powerful she is, and then just bringing her into the biggest fight ever, which is, I presume, with her cat.
Yes.
I presume. It's an important part of the story, Billy.
I haven't seen it, so I'll take your word for it.
Well, I'm not even talking about the movie. I'm just talking about the fact that she has a cat. It's important to me.
Couldn't be worse than Iron Man 3.
Oh my god. Are you serious?
That is hands down my least favorite Marvel movie.
Emma.
I agree with you that I think people are a little too harsh on Age of Ultron, but I think it's my least favorite. Though Iron Man 3 is a strong contender too. Both of them are not great.
Am I alone? Okay,
enjoying
thank
Iron
you.
Man 3.
The Peanut Gallery, Eric Goldman and the Peanut Gallery are agreeing with me in this. I know you guys are mad about the Mandarin.
No,
I do-
it's not even Mandarin. Look, I'll write you an essay. I'll put it on fandom.com.
Iron Man 3, you will if I let you.
The only thing that
Wait,
Marvel
of course I
has
am.
retconned, Marvel spent their own money to go back and make a
retcon
short
it.
film because they're like, sorry, this was so shitty. We will literally spend our own money to undo what we did.
I don't think that was like, sorry, this is so. You're talking about when they did. Do you guys remember the
was it
one
All Hail
shots?
the King?
All Hail
Yeah.
the King.
Yeah.
So they did these one shots that were like basically to both
They were
help
great.
promote.
for
They
the
were
most part.
great.
Yeah. I don't know why they stopped doing it.
I wish they still did them.
Yeah.
Maybe they just feel like they don't need to do. First of all, let's just start. The one shots, if you never saw them, they were basically these short films that helped either contextualize things in the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe or like help bolster a character.
Yeah.
So they did one for Peggy Carter when they were going
I
into
loved
her
that
show,
Peggy
which was
Carter
such a
one.
good
It was
show.
such a good show.
short.
Yes, I agree. I loved it. They filmed the finale of season 1 on the Universal lot and almost all of season 2 because they used parts of the lot to be like Stark Pictures because Howard Stark was, of course, trying to own a film studio. It was fun. I ran into Haley Atwell on the back lot one time, and it was like basically one of the greatest moments of my life.
Did you say anything?
Well, it was on Back to the Future Day, so I was over in Courthouse Square taking pictures.
What are you talking
On
about right
October
now?
21st, 2015, is that the day that's Back to the
Wait,
Future
why
Day?
are you on the Universal lot?
Because
She
I work
works
there.
there.
You do?
Yeah, I'm a tour
Oh.
guide. I've been a tour guide there for, gosh,
Can you get me into
7
Harry
years.
Potter world?
Yes.
Is there a hookup available? Okay.
No, that Harry Potter ride is the most frightening experience I've ever had in my
What are you
life.
talking
I had like
about?
a full-on 3-year-old meltdown on that ride.
On the one.
Are you
through
afraid of
Hogwarts?
spiders?
The one where you're on the broomstick.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like a huge like IMAX screen. So you're just like, I'm feeling dizzy. And then all of a sudden, like,
It's real.
boom,
Yes.
animatronic, and it's this big ass spider. It's like, no, no.
Yeah,
Give
and
me-
there's
I
a-
hated it. It was the worst
It's-
4 or 5 minutes of my
It's
entire
an amazing
life.
ride.
I hated it so much.
beautiful.
That's hogwash.
No, I seriously,
believe
I
you
was
that
like
you hated it.
traumatized. I like
Really?
walked out of there, and
But you don't like Harry Potter.
but nothing to do with my dislike of the franchise. Like literally, just like my senses were confused, and I walked out. My wife's like, "Oh, let's go get some butterbeer." I'm like, I just need to sit for a sec. Like I need to process what just happened to me.
Yeah. All right. We're having collective ADD right now,
We're on a tangent.
which is right on target. But
yes,
I
the
wish you had
shorts were
enjoyed
great.
that experience, Billy, because I love that ride, and I wish
Horrifying.
I wish it had brought you joy. Tell me about Back to the Future Day.
Okay, so basically on that day, what I'm trying to remember, it's October. It is October 21st, 2015. I was right. Okay, I was like, I'm not gonna say this date wrong. The internet is already yelling at me about how incorrect I am. So in Back to the Future Part 2, Marty McFly travels to the future October 21st,
Oh, I remember that.
2015.
Yeah.
So on that day, one of my friends who I work with, she and I went down to Courthouse Square because we're like, oh, we're going to go take pictures in Courthouse Square on this day because it's Back to the Future Day. And Peggy Carter, Agent Carter, they were filming over in another part of the metropolitan area. And so Courthouse Square is kind of on the very back of the metro sets. So she just like walked over because she she also wanted to take pictures in Courthouse Square on Back to the Future Day. So
I am learning so many wonderful things about Emma Fyffe today.
So I helped Haley Atwell take pictures in Courthouse Square on that day.
That's amazing. So Marvel Shorts, show one shots. That's an amazing. We're still coming back to the children's theater. Don't you worry. I know we have to wrap the show, but
No, you do what you want.
Well, generally.
Yes, I have no real control here. I'm like the Queen of England. It's like, yeah, you're in charge.
You're a figurehead.
Does that make me the Prime Minister?
I guess so.
So those were the one shots, and they basically, I think they probably stopped doing them because A, they don't really need them anymore, and B, they may just make a very complicated universe that much more so. But they did one All Hail the King with Ben Kingsley
And Sam
around
Rockwell had
and
one
Sam
too,
Rockwell,
yeah. That's
around
great.
the Mandarin. But I don't think it was necessarily like changing anything about the film. I think it was responding to the response from the audience that hadn't been entirely wholly positive about the Mandarin in that film. But that's a totally separate story than what structurally is problematic. Like, to me, Ultron, and I love Joss Whedon, probably people are too hard on it, but it's really a messy movie. It's a very, very messy movie.
I'm not taking that.
And
I'm not taking that away. Like,
it was a lot of people.
I agree. I'm just saying, Tony Stark is so stupid in Iron Man 3 that it hurts my soul.
Yeah.
Like,
Especially
from
when you
scene
feel
to
like he's
scene.
grown so much as a
Right.
character prior to Iron Man 3.
Right, it's like, let's regress and just make you the dumbest. And then I thought the PTSD was really cool. No exploration of that. Like, a couple scenes where it's like convenient and weird, and never bring a kid into a established franchise. Bringing an 8-year-old boy, I hated it. That kid was terrible. That movie's terrible. Iron Man 3. You can skip it. It doesn't change anything. It changes nothing.
I
They
sort of want to
retcon the whole
read
thing.
Billy's essay
Yeah,
on why
okay.
Iron Man 3 is terrible.
I'm going to point you guys to... no, I actually won't do that.
Nope, please.
I won't do that.
For
I
my
won't do that.
safety and
I won't do
yours.
that. I won't do that. We will talk about this. I will movie fight you on this. I don't movie fight anything ever, but
Let's
I will
do it at
movie fight.
WonderCon.
Let's do it at WonderCon.
All right.
Okay.
Done.
Done. It's happening. The crowd will be on your side, though, so I already lost that fight.
Do people not like Iron Man 3? I don't know
No,
what the
they don't.
general...
People
Not at
don't
all.
like Iron Man
They
3.
hate it.
No.
They hate it.
Eric says they're wrong, but
Chat just
Yeah.
likes Iron Man 2 more.
the chat dislikes Iron Man 2 more? I thought Iron Man 2 was fine.
It's fine. It's not great. It's fine.
Iron Man 2 is definitely worse than Iron Man 3.
No,
okay.
I don't think
no,
that's
ma'am.
true.
No,
You
ma'am.
know what? We have a
I
number.
reject your premise.
We have a number of conversations to have about wigs alone between
Yeah.
those two
wigs,
movies.
yeah.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up. And Emma,
Yes.
thank you so much for joining us today.
You're
You were
welcome.
delightful as always.
Thank you.
I am no way buttering you up because I want a butter beer, but I would love to have a girl date at Harry Potter World. That's all I'm saying. So we can hang out
Yeah.
and we can gossip and we can shop and we can go see the rides
Yeah.
and make believe, because I like those rides. But this is the most important
Yes.
question I have for you today. Of all of the children's theater that you did, what was the most ridiculous?
Oh, well, so in the course of my time working with Missoula Children's Theater, I did 4 shows. Yes, I did Red Riding Hood, because all of their shows are either like fairy tales or stories that are in public domain. So Red Riding Hood was like a really fun rock musical that was about like teenage Red and her girlfriends. She had like 3 doo-wop girlfriends.
Have you ever seen Reese Witherspoon's Freeway?
No.
It's a riff. It's awesome.
Oh, my goodness.
And it's a Eric's nodding. He knows.
I
It's
will
a
have to
riff
watch
on
that.
Red
But one of the shows that I did was Little Mermaid, and it has nothing to do with Disney Little Mermaid, and it has nothing to do with Hans Christian Andersen's Little Mermaid, because that has a really sad ending. But in it, so all of our shows, one of the 2 like adults played a part in the show, and the other one was kind of the main director. And you and your tour partner would usually switch. But in Little Mermaid, you, as the tour actor in it, you played 4 parts. One of which was a starfish. So a cowboy starfish.
Wait,
yes.
What made it a cow? Did it herd small
Seahorses.
Did
Yeah,
it really?
Yes. Yeah.
Wait, you're saying this is a
Yep.
bad thing?
I played a cowboy starfish.
No, that's the greatest
It was
role you've
pretty
ever
great.
played.
It
Sounds like a Limp Bizkit album. Emma Fyffe and the Cowboy Starfish.
Were there seahorses
The
there
kids,
for you to...
yes. So basically, the way Missoula Children's Theater works is you go around and you do a show in a week every week with like up to 50 kids in the town. And sometimes you have auditions where like 200 kids come and you have to tell 150 kids they are not in your show, which is real fun. But the kids, and in every one of the Missoula shows, there is a part, there's usually like 14 to 16 of them for the 5 to 7-year-olds. And that is
the Lord's work.
So there were all these
That is the Lord's work.
And they had cowboy hats too.
New favorite guest.
Yeah, right?
That's amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today.
Welcome.
We're
No
going to
problem.
have Billy the Business. You're contractually obligated to be here,
This
but
is
thank
very
you
true.
anyway. We do appreciate it. We appreciate you guys for being here. Thank you to Eric Goldman in the audience. We got Ryan in the back. We got Jonathon's here today. JT is somewhere. I don't know where is he with the dog.
Captain Marvel, I think.
Captain Marvel screenings are today. Oh, that reminds me. Things for you to watch this week. We will have Charting with Dan today. We have Honest Trailer commentaries. And tomorrow at 6 a.m., I think Pacific time, we will have a review of Captain Marvel with Mr. Dan Murrell and myself available right here on Screen Junkies. Warning, I might just gush about the cat. I might talk about the cat.
Sounds on brand. I believe it.
It's a really well done cat. Thank you to Visible, the future of phone service, for sponsoring this episode.